we're all set. Thank you everyone for being here. This is our first Women Local Leadership Program of the year. Thank you especially to Nicole for hosting us in this beautiful space. We'll talk a little bit more about that, I'm sure. My name is Jill O'Brien. I work with the South Shore Chamber, and Heather McCall is my partner in crime with the Will series. I want to first start by thanking our sponsors for 2024. ComSint is our lead sponsor, so thank you, Nick and Jenna, who are here. Thank you to Ailey, Enbridge, PR First. Nicole, you want to give a wave? Tiny & Sons Auto Glass, Cardinal Cushing. I don't think anyone in the room is from Cardinal Cushing. Friendship Home. Heather, you want to give a wave? And George Washington Toma TV and Appliance. So Jenna, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about ComSint.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is actually my first event being here, so excited to see all these new faces and hear the conversation. I'm from ComSint. We are a PR and communications firm. We are based locally and in Boston. And we help clients, large and small. We have national clients, we have local clients, really with reputation, messaging, any sort of media work, anything like that. So excited to meet you all. We're here in the community and, hopefully working with some of you guys in the future. Yeah, happy to hear the conversation today.
Thank you. So I am gonna, what is my other housekeeping? We're going to have some Q&A at the end and then more time for networking. So we'll just try to get everyone out of here by 10:15. So I want to introduce Nicole Craven. Nicole earned a bachelor's degree in music education and later a master's in expressive therapies with a focus on music therapy and mental health counseling. Recognizing the need for music therapy in her community, she started a small practice called Sing, Explore, Create, LLC. And now, over a decade later, it has grown into a successful music therapy company with multiple therapists. They work with both children and adults to support those with disabilities, mental health needs, memory impairment, and the general population wanting to connect with others and improve their own well-being. Nicole is a frequent presenter on music and wellness in the community and has developed several trainings for educators and health and human service workers. She wholeheartedly believes that music and the arts are a critical piece to building community and improving mental health and wellness. Nicole's journey highlights the positive impact of dedication and passion in the field of music therapy, making a difference in the lives of many in her community. She lives on the South Shore with her husband and 4 children. So, thank you. Thank you.
I mean, this place is amazing and she's amazing. But let's turn our focus over to Kirsten. Kirsten Oberoi, a Quincy native, is the founder and artistic director of the South Shore Children's Chorus, which has over 170 singers from the greater South Shore. The chorus rehearses in Quincy, Sharon, Hanover, and Bridgewater. Kirsten, with 8 years of experience teaching music and chorus, is known for her creative choral arts approach and strong beliefs in inclusive music education. She has presented at conferences by organizations like MMEA, ACDA, and the Rhode Island ACDA, and often guest conducts and adjudicates at various events. In 2024, Kirsten is conducting festivals, presenting at conferences, and adjudicating. Apart from her role with the chorus, Kirsten is a content creator for Chorus Connection, a published writer, and hosts the podcast Choral Connectivity. Please like and follow later. She believes singing should be natural, fun, and accessible to all. So that is a whole lot that you have going on. So why don't we start by just letting you kind of tell us about how we arrived at this point where you're doing all of these things.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Kirsten. Thank you for coming today. It's really exciting to be here and to be in this space to talk about what I love more than anything in the entire world, which is teaching singing to kids and creating spaces where they can just really be themselves. And so how I got there, a little bit windy, but whose story isn't at this point, right? I grew up in Quincy, born and raised there my whole life. My mom was a music educator in Braintree for 30 years, and so it was sort of like in my blood. So because of that, I grew up and said, I am going to do anything except be a music educator. So my goal was just to not teach music, whatever I do. That went well. Really went well. But I did decide when I was 18, I was like, I do love music, and I'm going to do chorus because I love chorus, but I want to do it, and I want to see if I can do it somewhere else. So I actually went to school in San Diego, California. So I just went really, really far and really, really warm. And I spent 6 years out there. And in spending 6 years out there, I figured out that I actually could do it on my own. And I just loved everything that I was doing. I was writing music, I was working with choirs, I was doing musical theater. So I was doing all of these different things, which is basically the theme for my life, is doing all of the things. And just finding joy in learning new stuff about the things. And so when I came back here with my then boyfriend, now husband, he was getting a degree at BU, and I got a job in the city with the children's chorus, and quickly realized that it was very difficult for me to work under somebody else's philosophy. That I had some really strong ideas of how I wanted to do things and how I thought things should be done. And when the organization didn't really quite align, I was like, this isn't really going to work. So then I left that organization and I got my job at the South Shore Plaza. And I was working at the plaza, and I was 3 years out of school, and I was like, I need to do something. And that was where South Shore Children's Chorus was born in January of 2016. And I was like, if I can't work for somebody else, I guess I'll do it myself. And people often ask, like, well, how did you start, your own thing? And I was like, well, I just made a Facebook page. And I had this kid I knew from college make a logo. And I was like, Dear Earth, this is a thing now. Come join it. And that was how it started. And I was 24, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I figured it out along the way. 8 years later, it has grown exponentially. We just had our concert in January over at the new middle school in Weymouth, where we had over 700 attendees. We have about 170 students in our core program, with an additional 30 to 50 that we serve through summer programming and different things. This year, we have an adult choir weekend in June. If you're thinking, oh no, I'm a terrible singer, don't even start with me, because I will win that battle every time. But we're doing our first adult choir. I'm doing a professional development day for local music teachers. And as Nicole said, we now have 4 locations that we rehearse in: Hanover, Quincy, Sharon, and a partnership with Bridgewater State University and their music education department. So that way their students can actually come and have pre-service experience with our students and our teachers. So it just keeps growing, and it's really cool to see it happen in a way that's super organic and natural, and everyone is just like really happy all of the time. And so it's great. So that's like the Spark Notes version of the story. I did teach public school for a little while, but now I'm full-time doing the thing I made up out of my head. And that's pretty much the dream, right? So it's pretty exciting.
That's great. So because we're here to kind of talk about leadership, I'm curious with the way that that journey and that path, kind of everything keeps changing and shifting, and you're kind of almost responding in the moment to, okay, now this need is here and that need is there. And how do you, because I find myself kind of having to do the same thing, but I'm curious how you navigate continuing to be the leader and to manage that role, and to feel like, and to help kind of steer the ship, even though you may not always know where it's going.
I never know where it's going.
Right. But
fun.
You've got a team of people, right? You have. Do you want to actually say a little bit of who's on your team?
Sure. I have a great staff. We have about 12 people on staff. Most of them are part-time teachers that teach 1 class a week. But I also have a full-time operations manager who was one of the students that started with me in 2016, which is a little wild, but it's fine. I think. No, but she's amazing. She's wonderful, and she manages all of our programs and all of our rehearsals and teachers and whatnot. And then we also have a community board of directors, and that community board of directors is fantastic, and they're made up of parents and community members that just want to help grow this thing and use their expertises expertise size, I don't know, to help us grow. So that's a little bit about our staff. But I think in terms of leadership, one of the things, I can't remember the name of the book because it's leaving me, but the author, Laura McCowan, it's, I don't know, I don't remember. But she talks a lot about responsibility. And the definition of responsibility comes from, basically it's to be able to respond. And I think when you don't necessarily know where the ship is going and you're always trying to guess, knowing the difference between reacting and responding is really important. Responding has time and space between the thing that happens, the stimulus, and then what your response is to that. A reaction is just hitting balls back, right? And so I think one of the things in early South Shore Children's Chorus, my leadership was more of reacting. Oh, this thing happened, okay, here we go, gonna fix it. And now as we take time, it's more of, okay, here's the picture. I'm gonna take time and space. I'm gonna think. I'm gonna have plans. I'm gonna think about the options and then respond. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the difference has shifted over the past 8 years of doing this, is that difference between reacting and responding, which can be really hard sometimes, especially as someone who drinks as much coffee as I do. But it, you know.
We didn't notice.
No. Actually, I often get that I need to be calmer in the world, or I'm too calm. I mean, you know, like I don't present with any energy. It's just a problem. I'm working on it. But it's true. You know, a lot of the times, especially as leaders, we see this thing and we're like, wait a minute, I know how to fix it. I can fix it right now, and if I fix it right now, it's going to be better. But sometimes taking that moment to respond, or sometimes to even let others respond, which can, again, for those of us who are founders, that can be really challenging. It's like, oh, if you just did this, it would be so much better, and it would be so much faster, and then we could get over this thing. But like, that's not necessarily the best way to go all of the time. And so just taking that breath, something happens, or you have a dream, or you have a goal, or you have a path, and you just take a moment from the stimulus and you think about it and you make your plan, and then you choose how to respond, and you respond on purpose.
Mm-hmm. And I think what you're saying there too about taking a moment to step back, and at some point you do have to trust your team, because then ultimately you're cultivating other leaders within your organization. And that can take time, and that can be so difficult. I really struggle with that as well, but taking that time and investing that time in cultivating other leaders within your organization and helping them to grow, because ultimately that is going to be, you know, help you to reach that bigger picture quicker than most times.
And I think it helps too to have a teaching mindset, right? Whenever I'm teaching a student, if they have a wrong answer, I'm always thinking, I'm not thinking your answer is wrong. I'm thinking, why do you think your answer is right? Why do you think your answer is right? What is going on in your brain, in your path, that led you to that? It's like showing your work in math, right? Mm-hmm. What led you to that conclusion? So if someone on my staff or if someone I'm leading does something and I'm like, why on earth would you make that choice? I'm always thinking, well, why on earth would you make that choice, right? You're a person I respect. You're a person that's smart. You're a person that's intelligent. You believe in this mission. What led you to that answer? And where can I go back and lead you maybe in a path that I think is a better direction, but where can I take some of the responsibility for that? Because maybe you took ownership over something, and that's cool, and I want you to take ownership over that choice. I wouldn't have made that choice, but you took ownership over the choice, so that's great. And just following that path back, it's very akin to teaching in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just always having that kind of, we talk a lot in our team about that curiosity, that we lead with curiosity, whether it's helping a client who's having behaviors that they're struggling with. Yep. Well, why is that happening? And then we can manage it from there. And it's the same thing with your team, certainly. Which kind of leads to another, I want to talk to you a little bit about
kind of managing of your team. I'm sure there's many small business owners here. And when we're working in smaller teams, we tend to form bonds a little bit quicker and easier. And I think especially in the arts and what we do is so inherently, it's just really intimate to be making music with someone and to be in the creative process with someone. And you're doing that with people that are also working for you. And so it can become really difficult at times to balance that. Now I've got this coworker who's a friend, but also I'm supposed to be guiding this team. And, I don't really appreciate the choice that they made, or I just don't understand it, or, and so how are we having those conversations? So how do you navigate that as a leader, knowing that you also have, as the leader of your team, but also that you've clearly got these strong bonds and connections with?
Yeah, I think the first answer to that question is it's never a finished process. You're always working on it. You're always working on understanding each other and understanding each other's expectations. I like the word expectations better than I like boundaries. Boundaries says no, expectation says this is okay, and this is not okay. And so one of the things my team went through last year a little bit, because we are a very tight-knit team and everybody's in the same thing. So my teachers were calling each other and they were like, oh, I have this problem at school. Like, do you have any suggestions about how to fix it? But those expectations were getting blurred. Do I have to spend an hour on the phone with this person because they're my coworker for 2 hours a week because I'm tired and I have this thing going on? And is it a friend thing or is it a work thing? And that started to blur a little bit and become frustrating. And especially to me, who my work hours are the waking ones, right? To anyone who maybe has a set schedule like a school teacher, and most of the people that work for me are school teachers, they look at my life and they're like, oh, I can call her anytime. And I'm like, no, you can't. And so one of the things we started doing that was really, really helpful was we started using Slack for work and text for friend stuff. So if you need to talk to me about work, you can use Slack, which if you don't know Slack, it's an app. It's on your computer. It's on your phone. It's basically texting. There's a lot more that you can do with it. I don't know how to do it. I'm working on it. But we Slack each other, and then we say we have 48 hours to respond. So that's an expectation two ways. You have to be thinking ahead enough to give me 48 hours to respond. And I have to check it and answer you in 48 hours. So what doesn't work is I Slack you, you need an answer faster, and so you text me, right? That doesn't work. So it's really tricky to kind of figure out all of these flexible schedules and how everything's coming together, but that has been something that's really worked for us. And what was really interesting in that process was I was like, great, we'll have Slack, and I will never hear from them again. And I realized that, wait, they actually do appreciate me as a friend. Because they are reaching out via text, and they are, so it helped me as a person be like, oh wait, they really do see me outside of my role, which was good for me and my heart and my soul and my humanity, but also allows me to be able to say like, hey, we need to talk about this thing. Why did you make this choice? I think you need to do this. I think we need to set up this meeting, and have a space to do that doesn't, that avoids the trickiness just a little bit, but it's always tricky, and feelings get hurt, and that's just the way things go. And the best thing you can do is have honest conversations and inclusive conversations that say, when I said this thing, I wasn't thinking that, I didn't recognize that you would get your feelings hurt because of that. I was just thinking about the business needs to run this way. And so I'm sorry that it hurt your feelings, and let me know how I can present it better next time to help you understand that this isn't about you as a human being. This is about the business and how it needs to run. And just not being afraid to have those conversations. I'm a big elephant in the room person. Like, if there's an elephant in the room, I'm like, cool, let's go. I'll say it. Let's go. Let's talk about said elephant in the room. I would love to do that with you, because that's what you deserve as a human, and I deserve as a human. And living in the culture of should or awkward is a choice that we make as human beings. If something's awkward, that's a choice we make. Oh, it's awkward and we let it be awkward. Well, how about I just say, hey, the other day when you said that thing, it kind of made me really upset, and I would like to talk about it so we can be done with it. And is it easy? No, but who said life was going to be easy?
And ultimately, it's dealt with in that moment, and then we can move forward.
And then we can move forward.
Yeah. Which is going to just develop stronger teams and teams that's going to help avoid burnout and all of those things that are, building up. So a lot of people, there's a lot of talk, I think, especially in recent years, about work-life balance, women being able to have it all. So I'm curious, because your organization, your business, your nonprofit is rooted in something that is so meaningful to you personally, and if you were still working at the Social Plaza, you would be in a choir for your own mental health and wellness. How do you manage those two things? Do you feel like you have personal and professional boundaries? What do you see as a work-life balance? What does that even mean to you?
That is an excellent question, and something that we are all working on. But I think what's hard for me is, what are my work hours? Because sometimes when I have that work-life balance, I have 2 golden retrievers. Their names are Chester and Charlie. They are litter mates. They were born in 2020. They are my pandemic dogs. They are the loves of my life. I love them more than anything in the entire world. Somebody was like, choose between SSCC and your dogs. I literally don't know what I would choose. I love them so much. I am a dog mom. But I love to take them on walks. I must walk 3-4 miles a day sometimes, in any weather. If it's pouring rain, I don't care. I will soak myself and I will walk. But usually that walk ends up, I'm thinking and I'm planning and I'm going through all of the things. And if I choose path A and situation C happens, how do I deal with, and that's what's happening during my lifetime, right? Because, so I think what is really important to me is to find moments where I am doing what I love, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to shut my brain down. Because I've tried the whole, I have work hours and this is the time that I think about South Shore Children's Chorus, but I've come to realize that this is what my life is. I love what I do. And part of the reason that I am a unique leader is because of how much I love what I do. So telling myself, yes, clock says it's time to shut it off. That's not going to be something that works for me. And here I am building this organization that says, this kid needs to do what works for them. So I need to model that. What works for me is I love to cook. So sometimes I will take 1.5 hours to 2 hours to cook dinner. Actual real thing. But that doesn't necessarily mean that my brain is shutting off. I'm being creative this way and my brain is still going and cooking itself, right? And so just realizing that I don't have to be bound to a clock or to this is for this category and this is for this category, that I can come up with the way that it works best for me, as long as I'm feeling good and healthy, and when I'm feeling like I need to take a break or draw an expectation line with someone, that I do that thing. I think it's okay, if I'm working 60 hours a week, what does it mean? What does it mean? Does it count if I'm cooking dinner for 2 hours and my brain is going? Who cares if it counts? If it works, it works. And so that's sort of how I'm thinking about work-life balance lately. That has its prerogative to change. One may never know. I'm a big fan of ebb and flow, if it works. Different things worked. When I was 25, different things worked. I could work a 13-hour day, and I was like, great, I'll wake up tomorrow morning and do the same exact thing. And now I'm like, but I would like to not do that thing, and I think allowing myself the grace to be able to grow and change in that as well is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes when, some of us who are in that leadership role, that CEO role, that, director of X, Y, and Z role, that it isn't realistic to always, it's that, getting your best ideas in the shower idea. And so I think it is really important that as long as we are aware and having whatever mechanism it is for us to do, it's more about having that routine check-in with ourselves of, is this still working okay?
Mm-hmm.
And, and if it's not, then finding a way to kind of shift and change. So, where do we want to go next?
Oh, I don't know. See, this is the ship, and the ship.
So, okay, well, let's talk about how, because we've talked about, we touched a little bit on how you're, as the leader of an organization, you at some point, it can't just be you, and you've got to develop these leaders amongst your team, and we talked a little bit about that. But in what you do, and because I've been involved in a lot of music ensembles myself, I'm wondering how you see your role in cultivating and building leaders in the kids that you're working with, and how that plays into the work that you do.
Yeah, that one is actually easy. Music comes second. The human comes first. Right now, especially with our teens, for example, we're doing we have a regulation station because they are just anxious little beans. They are anxious little beans who don't know how to do the thing, right? They show up and they're like, I'm in a chair and I can't be in a chair. And it's like, okay, where do you want to sit? The floor? Okay. Who says you have to sit in a chair? And then they can learn all of their music, but they're sitting on the floor. Who is hurt? 0% of the people, right? But then growing that child and saying, okay, why can't you sit in the chair? What is it about the chair? Can we move the chair? Can you sit for the chair in 5 minutes? Because ultimately, when you become an adult, unless you're something like me, I really do spend a lot of time on the floor. Sometimes I'll be in professional development meetings and everyone's sitting in a chair and I'm like, I gotta sit on the floor. I gotta just I can't do the chair thing. But growing skills as humans is really important. And they don't have the skills. And we expect them, especially teens, we're like, oh yes, you're young adults. No, they aren't. They're big kids. And I will stand by that all of the time. My 17-year-olds are not young adults. They don't know how to adult. They know how to kid and pretend like they should be more adults than they are. And it's coming back to that culture of should. Well, I should this, I should that, I should the other thing. Where are you at? Let's take that and let's move forward. Because if you're living in should about yourself, you can't lead. You can't lead at all. You have to have a great awareness of, I am this, and maybe I should have gotten that done today. The truth is, I didn't. So the next thing is, how do I get said thing done, right? Or what is the consequence going to be? Do I live in that consequence? And just teaching them these lessons of you have to be you. And that's the only thing that you can really be in life. I believe that so wholeheartedly that you come into any of my teen rehearsals and you're just going to see the weirdest group of teenagers you've ever seen in your life. But they're also so wildly comfortable with themselves. And I wish that when I was 16, I could have had a space where I was wildly comfortable with how weird I was. But instead, I was putting on clothes that I didn't know how to wear and feeling weird for being the kid in the chorus room, and different things like that. And they're just so comfortable in who they are. And then they go so far as to express that to people through the thing that they love. But that's secondary. That's secondary. The first thing is, who are the children? What do they need? And how can I serve that through this thing that I do? Which inherently itself, singing. Why do we say as adults, oh, this is a small soapbox, stop me if this is too soapboxy. Why do we say as adults, I can't hold the tune, I can't hold the tune in a bucket? Because society told us so. Society has told us that singing is something.
I'm so
on the soapbox. Okay, because society has told us that singing is only for the talented.
Yes, we have to be on the voice to be able to open our mouth and sing, and that is not true. And yes, absolutely
not.
Yeah. And then we lose what singing was made for and music was made for. That
and
we've
community.
Had for millions in the community. Piece.
In the community, when we didn't have TV, people sat around and sang songs together. And now we've decided we are absolutely not good enough as humans to do that thing. And that is so sad.
And that's the thing that we need.
That is the thing that is, your voice is the most personal thing to you. And I've watched kids, our entire program is audition free because I'm not going to talent check you at the door. I'm not going to say you're good enough to learn. That's very silly in my book. And so instead I say, you're good enough. Where are you at? Let's learn the skill. We don't say that about reading to our students. We don't say, yes, come read for me, and then I'll decide whether or not you're good enough for me to teach you to read. Come do math for me, and then I will decide if you're good enough for me to teach you to do math, right? But we do this with the arts so often. And how can we just break down that barrier and say, learn to love your voice? I've seen kids learn to sing and then learn to ask questions. And those things are directly related because they aren't afraid of hearing the sound of their own voice in a room. And that right there, that's the thing. It's not about, are you making the right pitch at the right time with the right thing? I could teach them to do that. That's my skill, but it's not about that. It's about watching that really, really scared kid come in and express an opinion that's uniquely his.
And I'm going to help you right there to bring it back to the leadership.
Nice.
Because then
Thank you.
those are the
Steering the
leaders.
ship.
Those are the leaders that then they get older and they're standing up and
100%.
sharing their voice, and whether that's, whatever career that they have chosen. So we talked about how, you cultivate leaders, but I'm wondering how you became this great leader that you are. So who was it that influenced you? How do you think that this ball of energy was developed and turned into the amazing person that she is?
A little bit of everything. I had an awesome mom. She was just like really cool and really confident and really good at her job. You had her as a high school student. It's a small world. Yeah, it's a small world. And she was really, really awesome. And I think when she unexpectedly passed in 2019, I think I kind of was like, all right, that was all of the lessons I get from her. And it was shorter than I wanted it to be, right? And so I was like, so how do I then self-reflect and teach myself the lessons? How do I carry on her legacy through working on it? And I work on my leadership every day. I think about the people I'm leading. I think about how can I address their humanity every single day? How can I be a good human to them? How can I equally balance challenging them and praising them at the same time? And how can I do that for myself? How can I look at a situation and I used to be very defensive about feedback. I was like, excuse me, I'm great. I don't know why you would think that I need any feedback, because I absolutely do not. Do you not see all of the things that I can do? Goodbye. Thank you very much. And that was, I'm making a joke, but really, that's how I was in my early 20s. My college choir director had a really big influence on me, and I tell this story a lot because it was super influential. My senior year, we always did this musical theater medley, and my senior year, I choreographed it. And I was very close with my college choir director. He was like a grandpa to me. He was great. Taught me a lot of life lessons. And I ran this rehearsal, and it was awesome. And I kept saying that in rehearsal. I was like, man, who choreographed this? This looks great. This is awesome. Who did this? And the next day, he was like, hey, can you come see me in my office for a couple minutes? I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I sat down. I was like, he's going to tell me how great my rehearsal was, because it was really great. And he sat me down, and I was like, how great was my rehearsal last night? He was like, it was really good. But I want you to think about how you presented yourself. I really want you to think about the words you said. And I know you were joking, and I know who you are as a human. And I don't think that's how you want to come off. And I was mad at him for 3 days. I stormed out. I was like, I don't know what this guy is talking about. He knows me. All the people in the room know me. They know what I meant. And after 3 days of being hot-headed, because the ball of energy thing also comes with a certain level of stubbornness and hot-headedness. Everything's a pendulum, right? But after 3 days, I went back to him and I was like, I think I'd like to apologize to the group. I think I'd like to tell them that I can do better. And that was a big turning point for me, where it was like, you know, yeah, you can do the things and you can do them confidently, and they usually come out pretty good because you're sort of insane. But there's also a level of humility and feedback and that kind of thing that kind of came at that young age for me, and I started seeing myself through a lens that other people could see me. And I think that coupled with, you know, knowing my mom and her passing and me saying, okay, well, I have to kind of find this journey on my own without somebody filtering for me and going, you were doing that thing again. And then so that self-reflection has really kind of turned into a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts about how to be a good human, and I think about it, and it's, you know, okay, well, do I agree with that? Do I agree with that style of leadership? If I don't agree with it, what is my thought? What is my opinion? Who do I want to be?
Well, we are just about at time for questions.
Wow. I
know, time does fly. It's pretty crazy. But before we even get to questions, I will just say that you, and I will say this, try to say it without getting too emotional. But yes, I knew that was a guiding question because I wanted you to be able to give a nice shout out to your mom. Your mom was an amazing leader and probably made me, 80-90% of the leader that I am today. And so to be able to sit here with you and see how you have taken her legacy but really made your own path in this world and in this career that you're doing is amazing. And she brought a lot to our South Shore community, whether people in this room realize it or not, she did. And for you to be able to kind of continue that on and bring this vibrant organization to our own South Shore community is just so amazing. And we are so lucky to have you and have that. And I know your mom is so proud of you. So.
Thank you, friend. Thank you.
And to lighten it up before we, you said you felt, well, you were alluding that maybe you felt a little old because your student became your personal. I remember when she was born, and
That's fine.
And then we are all sitting here today. A little bit of a struggle. But so we have time for a couple of questions. So if anybody has anything that they'd like to follow up on, or just any thoughts that you'd like to add in yourself, anything that really resonated with you, right ahead. Who's that? Is it
Tammy.
Tammy.
What are your top 2 favorite podcasts?
We Can Do Hard Things. With Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach. I literally listen to every single episode. It's just so good. I also, for the next one is tied for 2 different reasons. There's a nonprofit management podcast with Joan something or other, and I like some of the information that she has on her earlier episodes, but I hate how she interrupts her guests. It drives me insane. And then number 2 is Hidden Brain with Shankar Vedanta. It's great. It's just like all like stuff about the human brain and how it works and how we can as society take this like knowledge of psychology and put it into what we're doing every day. I'm a really big fan of listening to things that have nothing to do with chorus and then applying them to chorus. But also, if you haven't read the book The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker, hands down, immediate, do it right now. Do it yesterday. It inspired me so much, and how I do what I do. And so, yeah, Art of Gathering, Priya Parker, 10 out of 10. Do the thing. Audiobook, walk, dogs, cry.
Before we take the next question, though, I appreciate how much you really think about how you're leading and how you're presenting yourself within your organization, and you seek out all of these resources, which is really phenomenal.
I don't know about being a leader, but other people do, so I gotta figure it out somehow.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Christina from the Situate Salt Cave. I'm super inspired by you.
Oh, thank you.
I love your energy. I think you're amazing. I have 2 questions.
Yeah, sure.
What landed really solidly with me was your explanation of the difference between boundaries and expectations. And I have a small team as well, and I always feel like I am doing a pretty good job of like taking their information in, but how do you self-regulate so that you're not giving them too much?
Slack channels.
Okay.
It's 10 out of 10 because I can say like we have like 10 different Slack channels, right? Where it's like, this is for the team that only works in Hanover. So I don't have to send the whole team a message of like, it's snowing today, so we're gonna cancel this class, right? I can just send it to the people who are teaching the class. And then for me, one of the best things is I actually have a Slack channel that we call non-essential SSCC, because for them, they were getting overwhelmed, especially being the only person that's like full-time. I have so many things that I want to tell them. I'm like, this is happening, and this is happening, and I thought of this, and I thought of this. And they're like, I don't care how many tickets we sold in the first 2 hours. They're like, it's going to be a lot of tickets. And I'm like, yeah, but this time it's 250. And they're like, I don't care. So I just fill that channel with all of the things that make me feel like I'm telling someone, and they can check it if they want to. It's great. I get to dump it out, and they can read it if they want to. So for me, that's a really big thing. And also, I've realized that I get a better communication on return if I'm only communicating things that are necessary to those people. If they have to dig for the information, I'm not going to get what I need. So another all-staff email doesn't necessarily do it. And then also with that, the expectations of what their job actually is, right? What is your job? Therefore, those expectations, then what communication pertains to your job and what communication does not pertain to your job. And when I can filter that as the leader, they get a clearer picture of what I need. Does that help?
It absolutely does.
Okay, cool.
And my other quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
I gave birth to 2 girls with beautiful voices. Do you teach adults?
Well, in June, we are having something called, it's a brainchild of mine. It's called the Encore Choral Retreat. And what it is, it's going to be in Quincy and then perform in Braintree. And it's a Thursday night, Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. So it's a one and done shot. But it's not just singing together. It's also built around all of these community building activities where you're going to be learning about each other and creating community and connecting with friends and different things like that. For example, I'm going to steal right from the Art of Gathering. For our community breakfast on Saturday morning, it's going to be everybody's homework to bring their favorite coffee mug. And then we'll break you up into community groups, and everyone has to tell the story of why it's their favorite coffee mug. And then we sing together also. And there is no experience required. I will make it so that everything is easy peasy for everyone. And if you think, you're like, if you get it and you're like, oh man, like, I don't really think I could do it. I promise you, you could do it. You could totally do it. And,
my kids intimidate me, so.
No, you can do it.
You could do it. You could do it.
And what's also really nice about that retreat weekend is that in attending, you're also supporting the choir because there's opportunities, I think, at different levels to support.
Give an experience, get an experience.
Yes.
So we're also using it as our fundraising weekend, where it's coming from. So you pay a very small tuition, and then on top of that, we ask that you also give a quarter, half, or full scholarship to our summer program to support a student who sings. So you give and you get an experience at the same time because, as fun as galas are, singing's more fun. That's what I think.
What was the date again?
It's in June. It's on our website. If you do ssccchorus.org/encore. It's called Encore, get it? Because people are coming back and doing the thing. Get it? Get it? But it's right on our website, and registration is going great. Actually, we're already at about 40% capacity for June. It's a lot of parents. There's going to be a bunch of my alumni who have graduated, and we're hoping to get a lot of community members too. So like, bring your. We actually have some people. We have a hotel room block because we have people coming from all over the country to come do the thing. So like, come do the thing. It's going to be so much fun. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Cool. And then you had a question?
Yeah. Again, I just want to say that again, your energy is so infectious. So I'm sure all of us can agree to that. You were great. I'm just interested about your performances and what that sort of looks like. And do you target certain venues or audiences or communities?
Sure. I'm a big believer in process over product. Our product is phenomenal. Our process is more important. And so we only do 2 concerts a year in our regular season, one in January, one in May, because I'm not doing anything in December. Nope, I'm not going to do it. And so we do one in January and one in May. It's always the weekend after Martin Luther King weekend, because what are you doing that weekend? Correct, nothing. The May weekend is always a mess, but any weekend in May is a mess, right? But we've done different locations. As of now, it's been where can we fit, which has been tricky because we keep growing and selling out really giant venues, which is really cool. But also, there's not that many, like there's no concert hall on the South Shore,
Besides schools.
Big size schools are the best we can do. So where we have landed for the next 2 years is Maria Chapman in Weymouth. We just did our first concert there in January. It was beautiful. The staff there, the staff was incredible, and so we've luckily been able to lock that away for a little while. And I think that's pretty much as big as we're gonna get. On the South Shore, it's an 840 seater, and we didn't quite sell it out in January, but that's okay because that gives us. That's okay. I don't need to sell out another big giant venue. So that's where our performances are. Right now, our June performance for Encore is going to be at Thayer Academy in Braintree. And then our summer concert, our big summer camp week is at Massasoit Community College in Brockton. And we do our performance there. And that one's also pretty packed. But yeah. It's venues are tricky. Venues are tricky, especially when you serve like 35 communities. But I think we've landed, the ship has steered and we've landed in a good spot.
Thank you.
Well, I think that kind of wraps up our time. So thank you so much, Kirsten. Thank you to the Chamber.
And thank you to Nicole. This is their new space and it's incredible. And just knowing that there is an art space that's doing this, that is this beautiful, that has a home and has been built, like that deserves to be said, because that's no small feat, my friend. That is no small feat. So congratulations to you. And I'm going to get more coffee, but I'm sticking around. So let me know if you have any further questions.
That was really great. Our next program will be March 28th. It will be Cynthia Sierra from Manat Community Health, and Leanne Welch will be moderating. And it will be at the Allerton House in Weymouth. So that's March 28th. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you.